If there were ever a sign not to use translation when learning French, then the French verb falloir, or in its more common form, il faut que, is that sign. It's incredibly difficult as an English speaker to get comfortable using this because there's no one-to-one direct translation, direct equivalent of falloir in English. This video is inspired by this Instagram post that I made a little while ago that so many of you loved. Du coup, merci beaucoup for showing me how much you enjoyed it and that you want to learn more about it. Head over to French in Plain Sight on Instagram for daily French discussion. Salut French learner, if you're new here, bienvenue, je m'appelle Alex, and every week here on the channel I make videos for intermediate French learners who want to become more confident French speakers. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel, click on that bell notification icon, and we'll get started talking about falloir. Allez, c'est parti. So, falloir, or il faut que, used to talk about needing to or to have to do something or get something, etc. Like I said at the top of this video, it's quite uncomfortable, if not very uncomfortable, for us English speakers to start using it because it doesn't have that one-to-one translation from English to French that a lot of us rely on, but also the grammatical structure of it is so different from anything else we have in English. So today I'm going to dive into deux raisons, why you should be switching to this in your daily conversations. But just before I get going, I do want to reiterate, as I have done in many other videos on the channel, that when you're practicing speaking, the first rule is to se faire comprendre, is to be understood. So that means in this case, use whatever is easiest for you to get your point across and to be understood. And in many cases as an English speaker, that is to use devoir, the verb devoir. So, je dois faire quelque chose. I have to do this. I need to do this. This makes sense because grammatically it's easy to understand and therefore it enables us to have fluid conversations a lot sooner. However, if you're at the position where you're already using je dois quite regularly and you'd like to level up, use something a bit more natural, then I really advise you to start using il faut que. And so now we're going to dive into the two main reasons why I think you should do that. So when there isn't a direct translation from English to French, you have to kind of use your own common sense, use your own experience, use someone like me who has the experience of living amongst the language for so long to determine which verb to use in which situations. Now in this case, the first reason that I have for you to use il faut que more than devoir, or to completely switch 100% to using il faut que, is that the French use il faut que, and falloir is the name of the verb, more commonly, if not all the time, in everyday French conversations. One thing I want you to keep in mind is that if in English we don't use things grammatically as they were intended when the language was created or when it was evolved to the point it is at now. So that makes it even harder when you're trying to translate from English to French with something so nuanced as a difference between il faut que and devoir. Because in English we think of I have to, I need to, but in reality there's different levels of that. You have to because your life depends on it, or you have to because it's in your calendar. You need to because someone's relying on you, or you need to because you're hungry, for example, something like that. So keep that in mind, so try not to get too frustrated with it. So my first reason for using il faut que over devoir is simply that the French use it. And I would say, I went as far as to say 90% of the time, asterisk, on my Instagram post, 90% of the time, when you think you want to say I have to or I need to, the French are going to use il faut que rather than devoir. So if that isn't a good enough reason for you to start using il faut que, then I don't know what is. I love being able to know that I'm speaking French like the French speak it. Whether they're breaking their own rules, the rules of l'Académie Française or whatever, I like to know that I'm speaking like the natives. And also this gives me a lot of confidence because it's such a French structure, il faut que. It always has the subject of il. It doesn't mean he, it's like the impersonal subject pronoun. It's so bizarre comme structure as a grammatical structure to us that when you start using it, when you start getting comfortable with it, it feels like even more of an achievement of just translating I need to je dois. So that's why I say use it when you're ready to level up from je dois. So point number one is the French use it far more often. Number 2 relates back to what I just said a moment ago, in that a lot of the time when we say I have to or I need to in English, we don't actually mean have to or my life depends on it. Sometimes it means more like I should, because if I don't, then this person will think this of me. If I don't, then this consequence will happen. So it's often easily translated as should, which is softer. And so you hear that a lot of the time. So I think that the other reason why you should use il faut que instead of devoir is because it's softer, and I feel it more often conveys exactly what you're trying to convey in English, but in French. Although you'll be understood by saying je dois aller à l'école or je dois voir le médecin, that to a French person sounds much more like it's very serious. Je dois. It's an obligation, it's a duty, like I said, so use it when you're talking about orders. Even though there's going to be times when grammatically, sure, you'll get it a bit off, I feel like you're much more in the range of the mistakes that a native would make. You know, natives of English and French, like I said, break the rules. We don't understand our language on a technical level all the time. We learn from what people around us say. We adapt to how they speak, and therefore meanings slightly change. So using il faut que means you're conveying more of what you want to actually say in English, and this is backed up by what I said before in point 1, that it's used far more commonly in French. So you can have the confidence that what you're using is natural, and it's more likely to be conveying the actual meaning of what you want to put across. So those are the 2 main reasons why I think you should switch over from using devoir to il faut or falloir in French when you're talking about need to and have to. 1 is that it's used more commonly in French, and 2, I think you convey better, more accurately what you want to say from English into French. Now thirdly, as a perhaps less important tip, but something that will really, really help your French, is that you get to use the subjunctive. The subjunctive tense scares a lot of us because we've just got so used to all these conjugations, and suddenly the subjunctive comes along and you think, oh my goodness, there's completely different conjugations, what's going on? So I decided to leave it till later to learn. But one great thing about il faut que is, as soon as you say il faut que, you know the next conjugation has to be in the subjunctive. So you get forced practice of it, which is awesome. And another great thing is, if you mess up, it doesn't matter because people know it's an advanced thing. The natives know the subjunctive is hard. So if you accidentally use the indicative tense, the indicative form rather, it doesn't matter at all. Just get used to it, but it pushes you to get that practice, because you know 100% of the time il faut que introduces the French subjunctive. And remember, there's only ever one subject pronoun of il, so you only have to learn one conjugation for each tense. You have il faut for the present, you have il faudra for the future, you have il va falloir for the future proche, you have il faudrait for the conditional, you have il fallait for the imparfait, you have il a fallu for the passé composé, and something else I may have forgotten, but those are the main ones. So once you've already got comfortable with those main tenses for the other structures, apply them to il faut, and you're going to up your French game so much. But only do it when you're ready. Do it when your conversations are already fluid, or you really fancy the challenge of taking on il faut que. So like I said over on Instagram, yes, devoir can be used as I need to, I have to, but it's much rarer in my experience of living the French language in everyday life here in France the last few years. Go for what is most probable, and that is by far il faut que or falloir, which is the infinitive form of the verb. So next time you're watching a movie, next time you listen to the radio, next time you're having a conversation with your French speaking friend, keep your ears open extra wide for that falloir and think to yourself, he said it or she said it. I'm going to start using it now. I hope you feel much more comfortable with falloir, the idea of it, and why you should use it to improve your French speaking skills. I want to hear from you though, guys, because using il faut que when you're not used to it is really tricky, and your brain fights you because it just doesn't make grammatical sense in English. That is completely normal. I went through the same thing. So one thing you can do to start making it easier for yourself, write a comment down below with your sentence. Take a sentence that you could write with devoir, so je dois or tu dois, something something. and use il faut que plus the subjunctive instead. I dare you, challenge yourself. I'll respond to all of your comments down below and correct you if you need it. But good luck. Merci beaucoup d'avoir regardé. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Allez, ciao.